Hello guys, this is me editing the video. In the description box below are the National Hotline for Suicide. There's their website in the link below. I wanted to say this at the beginning of the video just because this video mentions suicidal thoughts, depression. We talk about how Sandy felt and how she needed help and she didn't get the help she needed. So I am putting links to the help she should have gotten and the help somebody should have recommended to her in the description box below. So please, if you are suffering from depression or suicidal thoughts or anything mental health related, please check out the links, call the number, go to their website, contact somebody. Don't let it destroy you. So thank you. Enjoy the video. What is up, everybody, and welcome back to my channel. It's been a minute, I know, since I've said I was going to do part 2 to this video. Today's video is part 2 to the Sandra Bland case. I finished doing the research for part 2 today, and I decided I gotta film it because I have a quinceañera to go to at 7. It is 1:13. So yeah, let's get it done. So part 2, this whole part, I was originally going to do like I did part 1, and that was like getting my makeup and my hair ready for the quinceañera. But that's not going to take me 30 minutes to do. So I figured, why not just do a sit-down video. I haven't done a sit-down video since my paranormal experiences video. So yeah, we're going to do that. We're going to do a sit-down video, and we're going to talk about Sandra Bland's criminal record up until 2015, basically. So, trigger warning right now, we do talk about depression in this part. We talk about Sandy's depression, and somewhere in the video, beginning of the video, the end of the video, I don't know, there are going to be suicide hotlines, depression hotlines, websites. If you are feeling suicidal or depressed or anything, please reach out, get help. That's all I can really say for that. So, yes. So, I've got my MacBook right here on my little chair that I usually sit in. And luckily for me, I'm not doing my makeup today, so I can see it. So we're going to start this video off in 2009. Sandy's arrest record starts in 2009. She was given a ticket for speeding, not wearing a seatbelt, driving without liability insurance. Her fines and cost totaled $876.50. Then in 2010, I don't know why I said following, she was cited in Houston for speeding and colliding with a car. That came out to $260. She told the court she was unemployed, didn't pay the fine, and an arrest warrant was made for her. So going back to 2009 real quick, she was arrested for a misdemeanor of a small amount of marijuana. That's just how life is. So in Harris County, which is where she was living at the time, which includes Houston, 3 times as many black people than white people were arrested and faced hard time because of marijuana charges. So during this whole marijuana thing, she hired Carl Anthony Moore to defend her. He got the Mary Jane charges dropped. Okay, this is me editing from the future. I just want to say one thing really quickly, is I accidentally say Mary Jane in this part. I meant to say marijuana. I even had it in my notes written as Mary Jane because I want to talk about marijuana, and then I said in parentheses, say the actual name for it. Sorry about that. I don't think I said it again. Let's hope not. To paraphernalia, a $500 fine, and no jail time. So, going back to 2010, in May of 2010, Sandy is arrested once again. She was coming home late from a party one night, and a sheriff's deputy said, "I saw a car going too fast with a headlight out and no taillights." He pulled her over, which is his job. She told him she didn't drink that much that night because of her epilepsy. He made her take a breathalyzer test, and it came back barely above the legal limit. She was then arrested for a DUI. Later, when her car was impounded, the deputy found a small plastic bag with 1.4 grams of marijuana. This amount of marijuana wouldn't have made 3 joints, but it was enough in Texas for another possession charge. Sandy got more to represent her once again. He got the DOI charge dropped and wanted to try for the possession charge, but Sandy told him not to. She pled guilty to it. Her sentence was 30 days in lockup. Well, Harris County Jail is where Sandy ended up for her sentence. This place houses 9,000 inmates a day. It has overcrowding, fighting, dirty sheets, dirty clothing, and dirty mattresses. And in the intake area, there are no toilets, only holes in the floor. And this place, this jail, had been investigated for all of that the year before. The year prior to Sandy going, they'd been investigated for that. So, after 30 days in these conditions, Sandy broke up with her boyfriend and moved back to Illinois, which is where she moved to Texas from. So, she thought about her warrant in Texas. There was still a warrant for her in Texas, and she thought it would haunt her when she went to renew her license in Illinois. So, she did something called sitting out her traffic tickets. The state lets people discharge their tickets with credit earned by serving time in jail. So, Sandy went back to Harris County Jail, spent, I think, several days paying her ticket, earning 100 credits a day. So you earn a certain amount of credits, and you can get out, and your warrant or your ticket is discharged. So in a sense, Sandy went back to the Harris County Jail, spent several days there, earning 100 credits a day to get that ticket discharged, in a sense, if that makes any sense. So after she was released, a friend from Prairie View, which is where she went to college at, asked her how she managed, and Sandy played it off with strength and bravado, and gave him the impression that it was nothing to her to sit time out, and that she'd done it like a champ. So she goes back to Illinois, and she goes from crappy job to crappy job. She worked at Portillo's, she had a few days at McDonald's, and eventually she signed up with a temp agency. So a temp agency is where you sign up, and then you get a temporary job, and work there for a little bit, and then get another temporary job, and you kind of just go back and forth between temps, hoping that one of these temporary jobs will lead to a permanent hire by someone. She also bounced around from place to place living. So she lived in a few different places. She lived with her godmother, whom we spoke about in the last video, Dee Watts, and her husband Lionel. She stayed with her sisters and babysat their children, but this made Sandy feel so boxed in. She traveled back and forth from Illinois to Texas on bus, but by 2013 she was back in Illinois working for a temp agency. So like I said earlier, temp agencies are temp jobs, like temporary jobs that you go back and forth from in hopes that you're going to get a permanent job. So Sandy thought the same thing, and that if I kept doing it, if I kept getting these temporary jobs, that it was going to lead to a permanent hire. These jobs never did lead to a permanent hire for Sandy, but that might have been because of her criminal record. So now we're getting kind of into Sandy's Facebook. This part also part 2, which is this video. We're going to talk about her Facebook, and this is kind of the first mention of her Facebook, but there is a whole nother part where we talk about her Facebook. Part 3, we will probably talk about it a little bit more, because she started #SandySpeaks. You can find those videos here on YouTube. I've already looked up a couple and watched them. Hearing her talk about certain things it's weird, because you know what happens to her. So later in a Facebook posting, she discussed a workshop about how to get your criminal record expunged. She introduced a spot with a quote, introduced the post. I spelled post wrong, how ironic. With a quote stating that she had heard it during her own interviews. So, the quote says, "We think you are a great candidate, but based on your background, ... A lot of people with criminal records hear that." Sandy's criminal record was nothing bad. It wasn't murder or any of that. It was misdemeanors. It was DUIs and drug possession and just smaller things. But a lot of times people won't hire you if you have those on your background. So back to her background, it got worse in Illinois. So a little data is going to be thrown at you real quick. according to Illinois state data, or data, however you say it, black drivers in towns like Naperville, Lisle, and Villa Park, I don't know if I'm pronouncing Naperville and Lisle right. If I'm not, so sorry. Black drivers are up to 4.5 times more likely to be stopped for traffic violations. Again, I think in part 1 we discussed that for Texas, how black drivers were more likely to be pulled over. In July of 2013, 2 years before she sadly passed away, Sandy got stopped in Naperville, whichever one, for speeding. She was also ticketed for driving without insurance, a suspended registration, and a suspended driver's license. The fine was over $14,000, and she didn't appear at court, and an arrest warrant was made. She spent 1 night in jail. So as you can see, Sandy has a repetition of not showing up and getting an arrest warrant. So Sandy was bonded out by her godmother's husband, Lionel Watts, who recalls that his wife was really confused as to why Sandy's mom hadn't bonded her out or bailed her out. But at this time, Sandy's mom had gotten married and stated that she and Sandy had long-standing conflicts. Sandy's mother and sisters both have not stated that what these conflicts were, and that's their personal information. We don't need to know, but they have not yet said that. But according to Lionel, which is her godmother's husband, him and his wife had become Sandy's economic fallback, especially Dee. Dee had transferred the title of her old Cadillac to Sandy. She opened a joint bank account with Sandy, and she was even Sandy's sounding bank account. I feel like that was not what I wrote, but okay. So by 2014, Sandy owed over thousands of dollars in tickets. Again, late one night in Naperville, she was arrested for driving with an inarguably high blood alcohol level. We're going to go back to Robert Lega, which we mentioned once or twice in the first part. He was a childhood friend of Sandy's, whom we talked about in the previous video, to say that, was living in Chicago, and the two of them occasionally called each other to catch up. And Sandy often told him about her problems finding work and being broke, but she also told him how she suffered from depression. So Robert thought this was very weird for a friend, or he said that it wasn't odd for a friend to talk about how they were suffering with depression, but he found it odd that they weren't getting help, as it is a medical issue. But continue on. In 2014, according to Lionel, Sandy got pregnant, and medical records did indicate that she was, and that it was an ectopic pregnancy. So this is a condition when a fertilized egg implants in the fallopian tube rather than the uterus. The result, usually experienced in early pregnancy, is excruciating pain, a burst tube, internal bleeding, and death. Does not sound good at all. I couldn't imagine. Timely treatment usually saves the woman's life, but in the aftermath, there is a risk of an additional ectopic pregnancy or permanent infertility for a lot of women. So going forward to 2015, which is when Sandy passed away, after she passed away, jail intake documents surfaced indicating that she had told the guards that she had lost a baby. So she told guards that she had lost a baby. Medical records indicate that she had ectopic pregnancy. So Dee Watts, which is Sandy's godmother, might have known about the pregnancy, but at that time she had her own issues to deal with. She was terminally ill with cancer, and in July of 2014, just weeks after Sandy's assumed pregnancy, she died. Dee was the older woman that Sandy leaned on for money, for a place to stay, and for a sympathetic ear, to have someone to lean on and tell what happened, what was wrong. So Dee's husband Lionel went into mourning. He just lost his wife, they've been married for years, and he didn't feel like having Sandy in the house anymore, and he spoke to her less and less after that. One of the last times that Lionel saw Sandy, she asked for a ride to a job interview. He drove her to Cook's, a manufacturer and distributor of cookware and kitchen supplies. The job only paid $13.50 an hour, but it was the first steady job she had had in years. And he was really, really happy for her. And not long after he drove her to this interview, she did end up getting the job. She told him that she was living with an older man who also worked at Cook's, and Lionel thought this would probably be a good thing for her. So, we're going to talk a little bit about Cook's, which is where she worked. Cook's was mostly white employees, and that will come in later. But one of the perks at Cook's was starring in short YouTube videos. These videos showed off certain kitchenware. There was a video of Sandy bending a spoon back and forth, saying that it cannot be sharpened into a weapon. So Sandy starred in a few of these videos. And a few months after she was hired by Cook's, she saw the movie Selma. If you have not seen the movie Selma, I highly recommend you do. I researched this case back in like May-ish, and I saw that it mentioned Selma, and I was like, oh, that was one of the movies on my list that I wanted to watch. So I watched it. It's a really good movie. It's based on the Martin Luther King March from Selma to, I can't remember the other place, but you know what I'm talking about. I highly recommend that you watch it. It's a really good movie. It's very empowering, and yeah. And after seeing this movie, she started posting on Facebook with the hashtag Sandy Speaks. So she starts the Facebook, and she never posted about her job on Facebook. Even though working at Cook's began to weigh on her as she became more and more politicized by the Black Lives Matter movement. Robert Lega, her friend, remembers her saying she had grown tired of helping the man generate profit off the backs and sweat of black people. She told Robert that she couldn't do it anymore and that it hurt her heart to work at Cook's. But she desperately needed the income, and she desperately needed the health insurance. So, from what we're getting so far, Sandy is getting more and more involved in the Black Lives Matter movement. We'll talk a little bit more about that in part 3, because that is mentioned again in part 3. So Sandy continued to post on Facebook. She posted a lot of videos. A lot of them, like I mentioned, are on YouTube. You can go and find them. Maybe I'll add a couple in here. The next, what I wrote next, I actually watched that video, so I might put that video in here. So Sandy did not typically speak on Facebook about her misdemeanor record, her problems with money, or anything personal and dark. She didn't share anything personal. But I believe it's 2015, by the way, what I'm about to say. But in early March of 2015, after 2 weeks of uncharacteristic silence, Sandy hadn't posted in 2 weeks. She was very quiet on Facebook. She offered a personal revelation on Facebook. She was suffering from depression and PTSD. On that very day, she had been crying. Or she said she had been crying, my bad. In the video, she says her illness was something that the African American culture likes to turn a blind eye to. Coping for her was a daily struggle against nothing but the devil. So, you would think if you post about this on Facebook and you have hundreds of thousands of followers, you're going to get a lot of sympathy. You're going to get a lot of comments being like, oh, here's a hotline you can call, or this or that. Sandy got none of that. She got no advice from her followers, no sympathy, and there was one sad face and one comment that said, depression sucks. Could you imagine that? You've never talked about your personal life or your records or anything, and then out of the blue one day you decide, I want to make a video about it, and I'm going to talk about my depression and my PTSD. And you don't get anything. You don't get any sympathy. You don't get any help. No one's saying here or commenting, here's this hotline, or here's this therapist, or here's this person. She got none of that. And that sucks, because African American men and women are both more likely to not get their depression treated than white male and women. Men and women, male and women. But everyone deserves their mental health to be talked about, to be treated, to be helped. Anything that can help you, please do it. If you need help, please call the hotlines, call anybody, go on their websites, research, find a therapist if you can afford a therapist, or get medication if you can afford medication. Do anything to make sure that your mental health is taken care of. Mental health is very important. I struggle with my mental health quite often, hence why I take so long to film a video or research for a video, because I get burned out real quick. Not only that, I'm going through my senior year of high school, so I'm going through all that. I'm going through these classes. I'm going through classes to be a teacher after I graduate, so all of that is just so draining, and then just sit down and film a video or research, or sit down and research a video. That is very, very exhausting. Though when I do it and I upload the video, these videos, this kind of video right here, I'm going to feel so much better about uploading. So Sandy should have gotten the same kind of treatment. She was uploading these videos for people to hear. She was posting videos for the Black Lives Matter movement. She was posting so people knew, and nobody wanted to help her, and I feel so bad for her. And if I had known, I probably would have helped her in some way, sent her the video or sent her the phone or given her some sympathy. I couldn't imagine what she was going through. And in part 3, we will talk about how she really got into the Black Lives Matter movement, and how her involvement in the Black Lives Matter movement ended up with her being a part of the Black Lives Matter movement because of her death. So part 3 of the Sandra Bland case will be everything leading up to her death and the investigation on her death. Sandy's case is still an open case. She actually filmed that the arrest that would lead to her death. We will talk about a couple of theories that happened around her death, one of them being around the mugshots. I am deeply sorry that she did not get the help she needed, and yeah, so thank you guys so much for watching this video. And if you or anyone you know is struggling with depression or suicidal thoughts or PTSD or any mental health issues, the hotlines will be in the description. They will be at the end of the video or the beginning of the video, one of the two. And just call the number or go to their website or do whatever. Get help. Everyone's mental health deserves to be treated. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in part 3.